within 5 minutes, he told us we were both out of jobs. We had till 5 o'clock to turn in our keys, get our stuff off property that we had there, and to move on.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode of the Forward with Joe podcast. On our show today, I'm so excited to have another married couple so that we can hear both of their perspectives. We have Paul and Kelsey. They are the real estate expert gurus, and anything you need from flipping a house to wholesale sales. If you're looking to get in the real estate world at all, they are your people. They own a company called Flippin' Experts, and we'll hear more about that in just a minute. But what I'm most excited about is the two of you have an incredible journey, and we get to hear it from both perspectives. Welcome, Paul. Welcome, Kelsey, to today's show.
Thank you for having us.
Joe, happy to be here, man.
Awesome. All right. So I want to rewind a little bit because you guys haven't always been the Flippin' Experts, which, by the way, I love the name. I assumed you were going for a Christian curse word here.
We weren't, Joe. It was like because we flip houses, right? So we're thinking flipping and houses and flipping, and we want to help people be the expert at that, like our students, to go from like just starting out or being a newbie to flipping it. So we're like, we want them to flip and we want them to be an expert. We're like flipping experts, and it just started picking up. And then all of a sudden we're posting stuff and it's like, this is flipping awesome. And I'm like, that kind of sounds like a cuss word. So we were already too deep in, Joe, but we stayed with it.
You got to own it and you go with it. So sometimes we hear the word expert and we hear guru and we're like, oh, great, another guru or another. And there can be a negative connotation to it. So it's almost funny where it's like, yeah, we're the flipping experts. What are you going to do? But that's really what you guys specialize in, is teaching others, specifically married couples, how they can do this for themselves. And it all begins with your journey when the two of you got fired at the same time. Let's go back to there and tell us about that.
Absolutely. So I would say in our first year of marriage, we experienced more than most couples would experience in maybe even a decade, dare I say.
Yeah,
we were married. Within a week, we were moving to a new location away from all of our family and friends, and we were launching a multi-million-dollar company. We were a part of a special launch team. So we were working together, and then the day came where the business was changing directions and we lost our jobs, both our incomes together on the spot unexpectedly.
Yeah. And it was crazy, Joe, because like we had came up with the idea for this business. We had went out and met with the sellers. We had negotiated it down millions of dollars, got it off the ground. They're like, hey, we want you to go launch it. We're like, we're in, we love it. This is why we brought it to you, the investors, and got it up, got it running, got launched. And then a year later, we heard rumors. So it might tweak, it might change a little bit, but oh, you guys have jobs. Don't worry about it. You're good. And we're like, oh, okay, that's cool. And then the CEO one day just shows up and we're like, CEO never shows up, and pulls us into the office and sits us down. And we thought something was up, something was changing, no big deal. And within 5 minutes, he told us we were both out of jobs. We had till 5 o'clock to turn in our keys, get our stuff off property that we had there, and to move on.
Wow.
And these were even people that we knew. So it's not like it was just some company. Like these were people in our lives for years. So it wasn't just you don't have jobs overnight. It was personal too, which was a whole nother level, right? You feel maybe betrayed a little bit or hurt a little bit or whatever it might be. But it wasn't just loss of job. It was, guys, you have 13 days left of insurance on your property. I mean, on your health insurance. And we had moved out for that job, right? We had moved several hours away, got a house out here just for this job. Well, when they let us go at this job, how do you move back? I have no proof of income. We were both fired. I can't say, hey, call my employer. I want to buy another house. It's going to take 30, 45 days to close on it. We were fired on the spot just because they were transitioning the company and they didn't need our services anymore. So yeah, that was a tough blow for us because it wasn't one paycheck. It was all money coming in. It was our health insurance. It was, what do we do for living? Are we moving home? Are we staying here? What kind of job can you find in 2 weeks? So that's kind of where we started, Joe.
There's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
I mean, we could spend the entire time just on that aspect of the story. And I fell into a similar trap as well. I was working with someone that I believe to be a close personal friend. And I think sometimes individuals can find themselves in the corporate world and maybe they feel that entrepreneur itch, but they don't do anything about it because they feel safe. oh, I know the boss. Oh, we're close friends. And your guys goes even next level because this was something you created. Did I understand that right?
Yeah. We brought the deal, put the thing together, and then grew it from there with them.
So in many aspects, there's a lot of people out there that would go, well, that was the entrepreneurial route that you guys took, and then you got messed over.
Right.
So how did, man, there's a lot there. So let's take the personal aspect of it first. And then I do want to talk about how that experience, which still very much has an entrepreneurial experience to it, how that experience differs from what you're doing now as the flipping experts. Okay. So we'll come back to that. All right. All right. So let's talk about that personal aspect of it. And specifically to the safety aspect of it, both the personal relationships and something you guys created from the beginning. Just describe what that was. Like, did you feel like this was going to be your end all be all thing for the rest of your lives that you were doing? What did it feel like when that rug was pulled out from underneath you? Like, just tell me from that. And I want to hear both perspectives with you, Paul and Kelsey, whoever wants to go first.
That's funny because the perspectives are so different.
When we moved out there and when we were starting, I would say we really thought that was our calling. We thought it was exactly what everything in our life had taught us and prepared us to be really good at. So we thought that was kind of the end all be all. This is what we were going to do for life. So when that rug was pulled out from underneath us, it was so unexpected. Yeah. And for me, it was heartbreaking, even though there were times where that job got so stressful. And now I look back and I see that, gosh, that was such a blessing in disguise. And it happened for a reason. And we learned and we grew from it. And I'm so thankful because it led us to where we are now. Of course, anything unexpected like that, losing a job, losing a loved one, anything that brings you heartache is traumatic. And it's something that you have to work through and get over before you go to the next step.
So you feel like this is meant to be your calling, that everything in your life has led you to this, that it is the end all to be all. What first went through your mind when you're sitting in the office with the CEO and he's saying, today's the day and you have 13 days left on your insurance?
I don't think I was thinking because I had the tears flowing down my face.
Joe, she was ugly crying, Joe.
Paul was as cool as a cucumber. He was sweet, respectful, all the wonderful things you should be. And I couldn't speak. I couldn't think. It was out of the blue. All
right. So no thoughts. So what emotions? I mean, you're crying, you're doing the ugly cry. Is it betrayal? Is it shock? Is it can't be true? I mean, what are you feeling? Is it anger? Is it sadness? What is it? What's going on, Kelsey?
For me, it was mostly just the what's next. I felt lost. I felt, okay, I thought this was it, but what do we do now? We don't have insurance. We can't move back home. We left our family and friends, which was a big step for me because I'm super close to my family and friends to be out here. And now what? We're stuck in literally the middle of nowhere. We were out in this country town. So it was, what is going to happen next? And how are we going to move past this one?
Yeah.
So when we do get into what you guys are doing now, that's what I'm excited about talking about, because what you provide will help couples and individuals that currently have one source of income and help them develop a second source. So should worst case scenarios happen, they already have their what's next taken care of.
That's
exactly.
Right.
That's really cool when you talk about what's going through your mind, what's causing the ugly cry, all of that stuff. You referred to what you're doing before with the resort as a calling and how everything had led you to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, look at what you're doing now.
Right.
And you're able to take that exact moment of despair, unknown, whatever was going on, and you're able to solve that problem for others. How cool is that?
It's incredible.
It's amazing. The funny thing is, we knew after that year, it was like, it's okay for something else to come. And the shock got us. But like, Joe, I was calm. Like, I couldn't believe I was calm.
How?
I don't know. It was God. It was God. I'll say that. Because I mean, she's sitting there just crying. I'm shocked. And he's asking me questions about the business for the next 5 minutes while she's sitting there crying. Like, what about this? And where are we at with this? And I'm like, dude, you just fired us. Like, what are you talking about? But I'm sitting there and I'm answering them. I'm yep. Okay. Yep. And I think deep down inside, it was because I was relieved. Like,
really?
we felt like it was our calling, and we moved out there because we were helping serve children. We were helping kids in need. We were hosting events on the weekends that bring families together. So it wasn't money. It was more about other people. But as the year went on, before we got let go, it was 70, 80 hours a week. It was 2 a.m., 3 a.m. She's working, I'm working. We had a short staff because they were trying to save money. And it was to the point where it wasn't that blessing anymore. So I think for me, when we heard the news, I was in shock, but I think deep down, I was relieved and like, okay, good. This is fine. This is good. We don't know what's next, but everything's a cycle. I've learned that since I was a kid. Everything comes and goes. All the bad stuff that happens ends. Your bad day, you go to sleep at night, you wake up, you start over again. So for me, I knew we're always going to make it. We were together. We had each other. If we couldn't move back now, we'd move back in a week, in a month, in a year. Doesn't matter. We're together. We'll figure it out. So a little bit of peace, but then there's feelings after you leave, right? While you're sitting there trying to figure it all out for 30, 40, 50 days. And you just have to trust. You have to trust there was a reason that it happened. There's a God out there that's going to protect you. There's all these different things in your life that have already proven you're going to make it through it. So I think that's what it was for us,
That's awesome. All right. So one of the things that you talked about in the time after, so there's that initial shock, and I can think of experiences for me when my oldest had just turned 2. She had what's called a febrile seizure. Her fever spiked really high and she just started seizing, and we had no idea what was going on. But in the moment, it was like, okay, I know what to do with the seizure. We'll get here. We lay her on the ground. Don't let her, move things away from her. We got to call 911. I'm going to call my sister and see if she can come over and watch the newborn so that we can go to the hospital with the 2-year-old. And everything like that happened during the moment. And then when the moment passed and I'd done all that I can do, and she wasn't seizing anymore, and she was at the hospital and we were waiting to get checked, then it was like all the why questions hit, or, the flood of emotions they hit, and the why, regardless, whatever's going on in the economy, in the best of times and the worst of times, changes happen and surprises happen. And so at any point, we may find ourselves dealing with that. And so what did you guys do when you were faced with that, after that calm, after that whatever, and then everything else hits? Were there feelings of bitterness? Were there feelings of betrayal? And you mentioned relief, but how strong is that relief? Does it carry you through the questions? What was that transition like?
For me, there was those feelings because we were told we were secure in a job. We were told, hey, if there's a transition, you're fine. And we trusted these people. But at the same time, if we knew it was time to move on, it kind of cancels that out. At the same time, there's still these feelings of betrayal, feeling like you're lied to because you were. But at the same time, we had a network already established where we were at with a local church and a local pastor, and we're getting counsel from him, and Kelsey's emotions are different. And we're trying not to really share them too much with each other because I don't want to put my burdens on her and I'm feeling this, this, and this. And then maybe she wasn't feeling that way. And now she's going, well, me too. I love you and I'm on your team. And now she's carrying some of this anger or whatever it might be. So I think for us, we worked through it on our own a little bit the first couple of days. And then we got some wise counsel and we just started talking to people. We're like, hey, this is what happened. This is how we felt. Are we taking it right? And half the people talk to her like, well, thank God you're not there anymore. Right. It was time to move on. I'm like, yeah, you're absolutely right. Well, then why are you upset? Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right. So getting counsel from the right people and not the haters out there or the negative people out there, that was always something to us that we were glad we had that support system. And what do you think?
I agree with you completely. And I think just coming together, we were able to encourage each other as well as look back on the life lessons of it. And mm-hmm. that's the point for us. That was the turning point of, we're not meant to work for somebody else. Mm. Our destiny is to do something bigger than that. We don't want to be under somebody else's schedule. We want to control our destiny. We want to be in charge of when we can take vacations, when we have to work, when we can be a little bit more relaxed. So it was really a blessing and a great turning point for us.
Yeah. It was kind of in disguise. Like God got us out of the area we were in for a season and then led us to where he wanted to, because he knew we would have never left mm-hmm. the other, we never would have left. We were making great money. We had a great gig going. It was great. We were comfortable. The word you used, And then he gets us out of it. And just for a short season, he shows us, like, that's the one key we keep saying to each other, like, from that experience, is we were never created to work for somebody else. We will never work for somebody else again. There's an entrepreneur has a certain heart, like they're willing to work 80, 90 hours a week for the same pay somebody works 44 because they know they're growing something. They know they're making a bigger impact in the world. And I've heard it said a lot, like, hey, if you're working for somebody else, it takes away your ability to dream, right? If somebody's paying you for 40 hours a week, you're working for their dream 40 hours a week and not focusing it on your own. And to us, I had done that once or twice, gone back and forth. I was a Marine. I was a state trooper. Kelsey was in the pageant world. And we always were mixed in it. And it was like God was saying, now's the time. Like, I've prepared you for all these things. Now's the time to go do what I told you to do. And he wanted us to help people on a bigger level. And that's where we're at now.
I love that. Sometimes if we're in too much of a comfort zone or it's too comfortable, then it does require that external push to let go, because otherwise it feels like total insanity to be like, well, everything's perfect and wonderful, but I'm going to go over here now. Like, it's just, sometimes we need that outside push, that God push. So we'll keep moving forward in the story because you guys have such powerful energy and such glows about you. I know it's just audio, so everybody will just have to take my word for it. They're glowing.
Yes, we are glowing, everyone.
Really good energy. And as we talk about some of these things, I mean, those times are obviously not as bright. But something that's interesting that you mentioned that was key was the outside sources. You talked about turning to the right sources, people that wanted to help you in your journey. And that's pivotal for everything that we're doing. We need those to surround ourselves with those healthy people and the right people with the right energy.
Right.
And so that's a lot of what you guys have created with Flippin' Experts, to be that right energy, that right go-to source for others that are looking to build something. So now that we've gone through that transition from, okay, I'm in shock, and now I'm transitioning to, I can see that there's something better for us and we don't want to work for ourselves, which is interesting, by the way. You guys have referred to this first situation as a job, and yet it was something that a plan you built and you proposed, and yet you continually refer to it as a job as opposed to what you're doing now. So tell us about that transition from, and why you called it a job versus why now what you're doing is a business and what you're building with Flippin' Experts.
Yes. So we came up with the plan and the design for the job, as you say, but then we had people who came over us and told us, okay, we like your ideas, but now we're going to do it this way instead. And I think that kind of capped us off. And that's where a lot of the heart and the joy that we were getting from that initial, we're building this place, it's going to be amazing, it's going to be this special haven for people to come to and get restoration and time with their family. And we had all these dreams, but then the corporate side came into everything, and it was all about the making money and working from 7 a.m. to
2 a.m.
the next day. So that, I think, was the big transition of when it came from what you could call an entrepreneurial adventure into being more of a job.
Yeah. And it started out as an entrepreneurial thing. I mean, we weren't married yet, and we would meet at my house and we're looking at blueprints and properties and how do we find this, because we both wanted to serve. We both wanted to give back to kids and families and this and that. We needed a location outside of Jacksonville to get people, right? Nobody wants to go to the same place. So we were trying to get them a couple hours outside of Jacksonville so they could experience it, right? They drive somewhere, they feel relief and all that. And then it just, like she said, it started transitioning. So it turned back into a job once we started working there. And what we're doing now is we work for ourselves. We build our own schedules. We have to, because we're totally different people. And she's a night owl. I'm a morning person. So we're building our own brand that we can impact people the way we want to, and we feel the way God's telling us to, versus, okay, I can do a little bit over here, a 5%, but then 95% corporate. Mm-hmm. So for us now, we're in charge of our destiny. We're in charge of our income. We're in charge of, if I make $200,000 more, that's more I can tithe. That's more I can help the local community. That's more outreaches we can do because God's providing that money for us. So there's really no cap to what we can do because we're not under a corporate job or a certain business.
I think that's a great perspective to have as people are looking to grow whatever business they have, whatever it is that they're doing, or maybe they're looking to start something, is you have to know what matters, and you have to know what boundaries you'll be able to put on that. And you guys were limited in the boundaries you're able to put on the resort because of the financial backers and the structure, whatever was going on there. Whereas now you're doing something, you're in complete control of those boundaries.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So I think those are really important questions to ask and to define as we're moving into something. So tell us more now that you've started flipping experts, but you don't just flip houses. I mean, you guys, why did you decide to also teach and instruct? I mean, how did that come about?
Man, seeing people go into something and not have the training to do it, it ate me up. It ate Kelsey up. We'd have people come to us and say, hey, listen, I just did this. Because basically a lot of people, they follow us on our website or social media, and they're seeing all the houses we're flipping and how beautiful they are. And that's because of her. She handles the design. I just handle she tells me what to build and we build. But other people were out there without any training, and they'd come up to us after every event like, hey, I did this, and I lost 30,000. I'm never going to flip a house again. And I'm like, okay, well, walk me through it. And I've actually gone and looked at people's houses. I'm like, how did this happen? Or how did I paid my contractor off the job. We were halfway done renovating it. I'm like, why did you pay him? I don't understand. So just seeing the turmoil that these people were going through, and they were losing their money, their parents' money, lenders' money, all because they didn't have the training. They didn't have a coach. They didn't have somebody in their local area to teach them or walk them through something. And it just kept coming up and coming up and coming up. And we were actually at a conference, had no plan on building anything. Keep doing our flips. We're making great money. We're helping our community. We're doing all these outreaches. And then we went to a conference with Brendan Burchard and Dean Graziosi. And Brendan gets up and he just starts talking about this and online courses and how you make a bigger impact in your industry and in your world, and how you can help other people succeed like you succeeded. Like, don't keep that information to yourself, but get it out there for more people. We're like, how do you do it? And Brendan just so happened to have an online course, and we got up, hopped in line and bought it right away, came back and just started building it. And I mean, just, hey, people, here's how you do it right. Here's how you don't get crushed. Here's how you can make a living for you and your family. And it just kind of kicked off. We didn't even plan to do it.
Nice. All right. So Kelsey, I'm like you, I'm a night owl. In my earlier years, when I, flipping through channels late at night, and you see the guy and he's got his fancy shirt with the sleeves just rolled up so he can show off his big bling watch, and he's got the spiky hair driving around in his H3, and it's, hey, buy my 297 thing and I'll give you everything you need to know. I mean, how does what you guys do and offer differ from those late night infomercials that are promising the quick fix and the $1 million tomorrow?
I would say that's part of why we started our online training course, honestly. Yeah. We saw the gurus out there who are promising the world, but not really giving all the pieces that you need to be successful. And I think that broke my heart, because people are shoveling out the money, the cash, get me the quick answers. I want to know how to do it. Yeah. Yes, I want help, but they weren't getting the full help. So we don't think of ourselves as gurus, so to say. No. We want to be a trusted source where our students can come to us, and we're going to open the doors and show you exactly how to do what we do and how to avoid making the mistakes and pitfalls that we had to learn by doing when we first started out, instead of having somebody coach and teach us through it. Yeah.
And we put our money where our mouth is. We just finished with a student who just did his first flip with us, and the net profit was over $97,000 profit. That isn't the norm. I mean, norm's 40 to 50,000, but do you know the impact that's going to make? He's a married couple. They're 25-ish, 26-ish, 2 kids that are just looking to grow. They're very talented people, but we put our money up. We're like, here's $200,000. Let's do the deal together. You went through my course. You believe in it. I can see you guys have potential. Let's go. We'll partner with you. So it's not even go to my course and I'm done with you. Like, we go all the way. It's, hey, come to my membership. Go see our live stuff. Go buy the course. If you want to take it to the next step, let's go. Let's go to a 3-day workshop. Let's go to coaching. However we can best serve them, because everybody's different. But some of them are like, I want to go all the way, Paul. Let's do this. I have a little bit of money and you teach me, and let's do this thing together, and we will. So we've teamed up, and we've had students make 47,000, 37, 87. I mean, all the numbers are all over the place, but it's us just wanting to see them succeed, because all they have to do is duplicate what they learned in one house to 3 or 4 a year. And if the average flip right now profit is like 75, or I'm sorry, 57 to 60,000. Let's just say 40 grand. Let's be very modest, 40 grand.
Are you talking about in Florida or is this nationwide?
Nationwide. Yeah. For a married family, and we always have a lot of younger people come to us, some older people, but a lot of younger married couples come to us. And if they did 3 deals, one every 3 or 4 months, and made $40,000, that's over $100,000 profit. Like in their, like we cheer for them. We love them because we know it radically changes somebody's life. When they're making 50 grand and she's a stay-at-home mom with 2 kids, to change that and say, okay, you're both in this together. You can still work your $50,000 job. I did. I was a state trooper and did that for 3 years while I was flipping houses on the side. You can do it. But now she's involved designing. She's involved staging the house, and she's finding purpose instead of I'm just staying at home with 2 kids. I'm just a mom. No, like you're in the deal. And everybody starts to find purpose. Everybody wins. They're collecting that money and they're going, okay, now we can afford college for her. Now we can buy that car for the 16-year-old. Now we can afford braces for so-and-so. So just seeing that impact, I think ours is all heart, man. You can call me, you can text me, I have people do it to me day and night. They can go on our social media, whatever it takes, but we're going to get them the answers they need just so they can be successful because it's about them. It's not about us.
I love that. And just for our listeners, when Paul said just a mom, he did air quotes. Now you can't see that for the audio, but he did air quotes.
My wife slapped me under the table.
But I love that because in one of my earlier episodes, Erica and Rusty Ryle, Erica talked about how, she had 3 boys and she was a stay-at-home mom and she loved being a mom, but there was a part of her that wanted to get involved, that wanted to contribute in different ways. And so this is something then that provides that opportunity so that you really get the chance for the best of both worlds. Now, Paul, you talked about, you're heavily involved and I love that. And I think that's so important. And to have that connection and that, that in and of itself, I guarantee if 5 years ago, I'm calling the guy in the Hummer and dialing that 1-800 number that I'm never actually talking to him. There's never actually any involvement there. But with that level of involvement, and you talked about at your job, you're getting up at 7 a.m. and you're working till 2 a.m. Granted, now you're building your dream. It's a business, not a job. You're building your dream. But how do you create boundaries so that you and Kelsey make sure that your marriage remains the priority?
I'm going to let Kelsey answer that one.
I think the best learning lessons for me, I learned after our first year of marriage. And it was that we each have our own strengths and weaknesses and our own gifts and talents. And when you put them together, it makes us so much stronger. But our first year of marriage, I spent so much time trying to be like Paul. He's a morning bird. So he wakes up at 5:30 in the morning and he has his plan set, he has his routine, and he's ready to dive into work. But I'm the night owl. I get creative at night. I do my designing at night for our houses. I answer emails. I do the accounting. That's when my brain is just on fire and I'm ready to go. So we had a lot of frustration in our first year of marriage because first I was trying to be all like him, which led to...
Nobody can be like me. I'm just saying.
I'd wake up early and it led to frustration and I was grouchy and I was a lot less productive. But then we came together and we figured out our strengths and our weaknesses. And we realized, okay, so the best time for us to strategize is in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
And that's when we come together. We make our most important business decisions, but we also take time to work out together. We make sure we have family dinners together. So we make sure that we prioritize our time just as a couple. And then we can go through and I'm at night, he goes to bed and I'm doing everything I need to do on the business end that he's not involved in. Yeah. So I think it's so important just to set that schedule.
I love that. When you talk about prioritizing your time together, that to me sounds like, okay, we've got and you talk about scheduling, we've got our calendar, we've got our schedule. So when are we going to have we know that this is when our family dinners are. We know that this is going to be our gym time. Those things go on the calendar. And then as individuals, all right, Kelsey, for you, okay, so in the evening, this is when I want to get this stuff done. And Paul, for you, okay, in the morning, this is when I want to get stuff done. I think a mistake that couples make is they try to set their individual schedules first and then somehow pair that up with their spouse. And when you do it that way, there's not enough openings that overlap, and it devalues the time together, frankly. So I really like your guys' approach to that. Paul, what would you add to that as far as how you're able to set boundaries in your relationship?
I'm a big planner. I have a daily planner. Everything I do has to be thought of ahead of time, a day ahead of time, a week ahead of time. My calendar's built out a week ahead of time with flexibility in there. A lot of people build the calendar and have it so packed there's no flexibility. Stuff comes up, stuff happens. I think my aha moment was like one day I just went to Kelsey and I handed her a piece of paper and pen and I said, what would make you the happiest if your day looked like this? And write it down. And she said, well, if I slept until 9, if I did this from 9 to 10, and if I did this from 10 to 11, and then we worked out from 11 to 12, and she built out her day. And I took my day and I looked at it and said, okay, where can I be flexible? Babe, I can't do this 5 days a week. I can do it 3. Okay, let's start with 3. And then we gradually just grew into each other's strengths. And I said, okay. And then I realized, I'm like, hey, take a half a day off. It's not a big deal. I'll go handle this stuff over here. Like, she's more productive. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, you could have the week off, girl. Just go ahead and get some stuff done. But that's just like when you don't feel like you have to do it and that you get to do it, you do more. Like my Saturdays and Sundays, I get more visions, more stuff built out. I'm just like, I'm just going to relax today. And then Kelsey will see me like knock out 5 things. She's like, I thought you weren't doing that. And I'm like, I didn't have to, but it was so cool. I was relaxed and I just did it.
Mm-hmm, that's true.
But for us, I think it's just boundaries. It has to be me and her first, right? Like obviously my relationship with God and her relationship with God, that's our own time, but she has to come before anything. If she's not happy, we're not going to stay married. If we don't stay married, the business is going to fail. If the business fails, if we don't have money, we're not doing the things we love. So for me, I love her to death. I'm going to do whatever I can do to make her happy. And if she succeeds, I automatically win. So that's kind of where I'm at. It's just if I can keep her in her giftings and then the other stuff we give away. I hired a virtual assistant and I'm like, listen, I'm not doing these 5 things because what I used to do, and this is where I messed up, Joe, I'd be like, man, I don't want to do this, this, or this. And I'd be like, Kelsey, I need you to do these 3 things.
Uh-oh.
Well, that's not fair to Kelsey.
Dun, dun, dun.
So finally we hired an assistant, a virtual assistant, and we're like, hey, listen, she can do these 10 things. It's 5 of them are off your plate, 5 are off my plate. And now it freed up time for my schedule. It freed up mental stress. It freed up doing things I didn't want to do. So that helped me a lot, Joe.
I love that. There's a lot of great advice in there to be able to listen to again and again and find out the different pieces. I love also that, and you guys know from my book and stuff that this is something that's important to me is about having that vision. Like, what's your ideal? What's an ideal day look like? I think too often we look way out and we say, what's my 10-year goal? And I create this vision of what 10 years is going to look like, but I have no idea what I need tomorrow to look like.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
And you do need that long-term goal. You need to know the destination, where the cruise ship is going before you get on board. But you also need to know what you're looking for in the day-to-day things. And that's beautiful that you guys have done that. And I think that speaks both to your character as well as the quality that you can provide to others as they learn the systems and can skip that first year that you guys went through and those challenges.
That's right.
I guess we'll go ahead and wrap up. So 2 questions, ask everybody before the end of the show or at the end of the show. First, if there's one principle that you'd like the listeners to walk away with, what would that be? And second, I believe you guys have a gift for the listeners. And so tell us about that and how we can get a hold of that. But first, the principle.
I think our biggest principle as a family and as a company is always take a step. So many people allow fear to creep in, but they don't even know what they're afraid of. This, like you said, this could happen, this could happen, this could. Okay, what if it doesn't? Just take a step and see what happens. And a lot of our students, a lot of our friends, like that's what we're always teaching. It's like, just, you don't know until you take the step. Even if it's a wrong step, like as long as you've thought about it and planned it or had a conversation or whatever, just continue to take a step. That's our biggest push. And if you do that, even if it's once a day, that's 365 things you've accomplished in a year. And that's kind of what you're saying. Everybody's worried about 10 years. It's like, no, like take a step today or change something in your life today or pivot something in your life today and just keep doing it every day and watch where you end up next week, let alone in a year.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, Kelsey, you're going to tell us about this gift?
Give them something, babe.
Yes.
Give them something.
We want the listeners, all of our new friends, to join us and become flippin' experts too. So if you go to www.flippinexperts.com,
no
and there's
G in it.
No G in flippin', just FLIPPIN experts.com, and go to buy our training course. Use the code #forward, all capital letters, and you'll get 20% off. So you can become a flippin' expert too.
And actually they can go to our website even and just click the button for free training, and they get like 35 days of free training.
Wow.
For free. No obligations, no nothing. So if they don't even want the course and they just want to figure out who we are, hey, go click on that free training and you'll get an email every day for about 35 days just with awesome videos and awesome training.
Well, that's perfect. Start with the free content, get the videos, learn about you guys, see the value, see the heart that you guys have already shared on today's episode, and find out if flipping real estate is for you. And you guys do more than just flip houses, but the different aspects that you guys do. See if you as the listeners, see if what Paul and Kelsey do is for you. And if it is, then when you go to purchase the course, use the #forward and get, like Kelsey said, get that 20% off. So you guys, that's awesome. I've really enjoyed our time together. I really enjoy the energy that you guys have brought, and also the heart that you clearly give to the people that you seek to serve. And I think that speaks to the success you've already achieved and will continue to achieve. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Joe, thanks for having us. We love being here. If you ever need us again, give us a buzz. We're happy to jump on with you.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode. If you found the information helpful, remember to share it with your friends and family. And make sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast player. You can find more episodes at forwardwithjoe.com. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.